Welcome back. And I just tell you what, the winning just keeps happening. The wins keep piling up. And I don't know. I'm not, Trump asked, are you tired of winning yet? I am not tired of winning yet. Not a single bit. I am excited for, we're two weeks tomorrow. Tomorrow we're 2 weeks into this, which means we got 3 years, 50 weeks left to go. I no problems on my side here. But hey, if you're new to the channel here, drop down below, hit that subscribe button so you can help us reach more and more people like yourself. And if you like this video, hit that like button, comment down below if you have any other suggestions, video topics you'd like us to cover. But today we're going to be talking about President Trump's recent executive order that he signed to end radical indoctrination in our public school system. Now, Trump is directly targeting the radical anti-American ideologies that are thriving in the education departments in America. This order, really what it's trying to do is it is trying to eliminate, if you get down to the nitty gritty, not just the, hey, he eliminated DEI, what does that actually mean? Now he is going to eliminate federal funding for any K through 12 schools and post-secondary schools that promote what it coins, quote, gender ideology and discriminatory equity ideology, which includes concepts like critical race theory and teachings related to gender identity or transitioning. Now, it specifically criticizes schools for indoctrinating students into ideologies that promote racial divisions or encourage students to question their gender identity without parental consent. As you know, that has been something very, very popular from these lefty lunatics that want to take rights away from parents. They want kids to be able to transition in the school system without parents knowing what's going on, which is absolutely unacceptable. And then when they try and bring something up to the school board, the Biden DOJs would go after them and try and put them in jail. Now, this order states that schools are making students, quote, that they're making students adopt identities as either victims or oppressors solely based on race, and makes them question whether they were born in the wrong body or not. But if we get into this here, let's see what it is actually, what this order is actually going to implement. What are the processes that are going to be laid out in other federal agencies that we're going to see that is specifically going to target funding for federal funding for these perpetrators. Now, I just want to read a little bit of the purpose and policy of this that I thought was very interesting. Imprinting anti-American, subversive, harmful, and false ideologies on our nation's children not only violates long-standing anti-discrimination civil rights laws in many cases, but it absurds basic parental authority. For example, steering students towards surgical and chemical mutilation. By the way, absolutely love that the Trump administration is marketing this as mutilation. I hate to say the word marketing because it makes it sound like it's different than what it actually is. But this is mutilation, surgical and chemical mutilation without parental consent or involvement, or allowing males access to private spaces designated for females may contravene federal laws that protect parental rights, including the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Now, similarly, the Trump administration is going to go ahead, and there's a couple things that they're going to be doing here. The first thing that they're going to do is within 90 days of the date of this order, to advise the president in formulating future policy, the Secretary of Education, which hopefully will be Linda McMahon, but so far I haven't seen anything as far as when we're going to have a hearing for Linda McMahon. A lot of Trump's nominees they've gone through the actual process of advising and consent with the Senate, but as of right now, I haven't seen anything, but I'll keep you up to date if we do see anything on that. But they have to develop within 90 days for the Secretary of Education, Secretary of Defense, which would be Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Health and Human Services, hopefully will be RFK Jr. here soon, in consultation with our soon-to-be Attorney General Pam Bondi, to provide an ending indoctrination strategy to the president through the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, containing recommendations for a plan. Now, here is what they're going after. Eliminating federal funding or support for illegal and discriminatory treatment and indoctrination in K through 12 schools, including based on gender ideology and discriminatory equity ideology. This is exactly what we need to be going through. Federal taxpayers should not, these federal funds should not be going to promote gender ideology or this equity, this discriminatory equity ideology that classifies people as either victims or oppressors. Totally not okay. The world is not binary like that, where there are victims and there are oppressors. You're an oppressor because you're white. You're a victim because you're a minority. It's as simple as that. Total BS. Total BS. And it's surprising that this has even got this far. But then to end indoctrination strategy submitted under this section should have an analyst of all of these things. All federal funded sources and streams, including grants or contracts that directly or indirectly support or subsidize the instruction, advancement, or promotion of gender ideology or discriminatory equity ideology. In K through 12 curriculum, K through 12 teacher education, certification, license, employment. So they're getting it not only in the curriculum, but what the teachers are being taught in their certification processes, in their licensing process, and any training that goes into that. It is we have to hit this at all levels. We can't just hit it at the curriculum, and we can't just hit it at, teachers' educations, when they go to school to become a teacher. You have to hit it wherever there are federal funds that are going towards this. We need to go after it. Now, there is a very, very strong emphasis on protecting parental rights inside of this executive order to ensue that schools do not use their authority over parents in decisions regarding their children's education and identity. Remember, the parents are the ones who are in control. They make the decisions. It is their property taxes that go to fund a portion of these schools, and they also get federal and state funding as well. It is totally unacceptable if you're going to have a school district going against the will of the parents that they fund it. They pay for it. Now, there is a lot of controversy that kind of came out of this on the left. Some people are arguing that the order could suppress educational discussions on race, gender, and American history, potentially violating students' rights to learn about discrimination and societal structures. There is absolutely nothing wrong with learning about our history. We should not try and cover up our history or change our history. There are pieces of our history that are not so great. Not so great, but guess what? So, just like with the United States, every other country on the planet has a not so great history behind it. So let's not try and sit here and pretend like there's some other country out there, this utopian world that everything is just perfect in, and there's no discrimination, there's no racism, there's no sexism. Nobody's saying it doesn't exist, which is just total BS. This executive order is specifically targeting federal funds that are going to fund indoctrination programs where boys think they can be girls and girls think they can be boys. That is specifically what this is about. And then the idea that life is binary and that people are either victims or oppressors. That is specifically what this goes after. It has nothing about suppressing any educational discussions on race, gender. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that a woman couldn't open a bank account by herself until 1973. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what was so wrong about that. This is not violating a student's rights. This is violating. The only thing it's violating are these predators who want to mutilate children surgically and chemically. That's it. That's all it is. But for the supporters, the people who see this as a move to maintain traditional education and reduce, the political indoctrination in our schools. Kids go to school to learn, not to be indoctrinated. We do not put them in here so they just follow this path, follow this process. You are supposed to go there to learn, to think for yourself. We need more kids to think for yourselves, or else you get people kind of like David Hogg, can't think for themselves, totally controlled by the mainstream media, who is now the vice chair of the DNC or something like that, who was basically elected because there was nobody else to elect, but that's a whole other video. Now, there are some questions around the legality around the order, since the federal government traditionally has limited control over curriculum. But ultimately, if there are federal funds that are going towards this, we're going to fight this in court. The Democrats are going to fight it in court too, but we're going to fight this. And I just don't, we'll see how it plays out in court if that's where we get. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the federal government saying, hey, we're not going to fund certain types of education. educations of indoctrination, gender ideology, victims and oppressors, stuff like that. Now, the immediate impact might not be in direct funding just because it's going to take 90 days. This is the initiation of the process. So this is not the ball. This is just getting the ball rolling. We don't have a big snowball yet. This is a tiny snowball that we're trying to roll and get bigger and bigger. This is the formalities we had to do at the beginning to get this process started, so we can review and potentially pause any federal funds that might be going to sources that are promoting these gender ideologies or these victims, the oppressor and oppressee ideologies. So it's not going to be like overnight we're going to see a complete halt, which there could be. Now, Trump has put a pause on a lot of discretionary spending, which I think is a great thing, but we may not see it as far as funds being slashed immediately. It's going to take 90 days for it to go through this process and potentially longer than that. And now I really believe that this is going to influence how schools approach teaching about race, gender, and history. And hopefully, just because we're going through this process here where they are going to be looking at curriculums and defunding these institutions, other, school districts or states that want to promote these ideas, we're going to hope that even a portion of them are just going to self-censor themselves to avoid losing federal funds or having to get into a spat with the Trump administration. That's going to be the hope, is that a lot of them, hopefully school districts that are kind of right down the middle, not in crazy left far-wing districts, but they're just going to self-censor themselves on these radical gender ideologies. Like that's just what the hope is at this point. And obviously, this executive order reflects a continuation of Trump's policies from his first term. Included in this, and let's see if we can get down to it, President Trump is going to be reestablishing the Presidential Advisory 1776 Commission and promoting patriotic education. Now, initially, Trump created this on his way out of office, or I don't think the election had happened yet. But soon before the 2020 election, he established this commission on November 2nd, 2020 to promote patriotic education. And then obviously it was terminated by Biden because, Biden sucks. He was a terrible president, if you didn't know. But first day in the slew of executive orders Biden signed, he terminated this. Obviously, they've reestablished this, and the purpose of it is to promote patriotic education and advance the purposes stated in Section 1 of this executive order, as well as to advise and promote the work of the White House Task Force on celebrating the 250th birthday and the United States I can't say that, I'm not even going to try, but basically a quarter of, I don't even know what that would be, 2.5 centuries, in their efforts to provide a grand celebration worthy of a momentous occasion of the 250th anniversary. So this is just great. We need to promote patriotic education. So far, our school systems continue to fund and create children who hate America. Why is it that we have so many young people who hate America? Why is it? It's because of the education system. It's because of the BS they've been pushing inside of our education. And first, that's going to start by really taking a grasp on these federal funds so we can make sure we instill patriotic. We don't need to lie about our history. But that goes both ways. We don't need to suppress some of the wrongdoings of the United States over the last 200 years. But also, we don't need to make it worse than it actually is right now. We don't need to make it sound like everybody's an oppressor and a victim. Because that's just not reality. We really need patriotic education initiatives like this, just to align with the broader political, kind of the atmosphere that we're in right now. People want patriotic education. We don't want to be lied to, but at the end of the day, we don't want to be lied to about being a victim or an oppressor, or that boys can become girls and girls can become boys. It's just as simple as that. That's just not going to happen under the Trump administration. So the winning just keeps continuing. Jump on over to the White House, their website. You can read all about this. Read the whole. It's a really good read. Read the whole executive order. It's really great. So that's it for today. If you like this video, drop a comment down below, hit that like button. I would really, really appreciate it. It helps us reach more and more people. But otherwise, have a great rest of your night, guys.